I feel the best guy in the NFL, in Major League Baseball, is the most prepared.
Yeah.
And part of that is, like you said, I got to shorten that gap. How fast can I get back to, even if it's 90%?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How fast can I get back to there? Because you can't afford, especially in the NFL, you don't have enough shots. But even in baseball, like, you can't go through too many slumps.
Yeah.
You know? And I think a lot of that is mental. When guys can't hit the ball, they start searching for things. And I think it's all about you stay in that preparation. You understand this is what I do, because this is what when I do this, I'm at my best.
Yeah.
Even if it's not that time, I'm not going to have an opportunity to be at my best if I don't follow this.
Welcome to Full Field. What's up, babe?
What's up, man?
What's going on?
Good to be here, bro.
All right, so today we're joined with an exceptional guest. Dude, I'm so excited. I'm pumped about this one.
Me too, man.
Yo Murphy is a former NFL athlete who made his mark with the Minnesota Vikings and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Go Bucs. Yo has transitioned from the gridiron to becoming a mentor and trainer through his newest venture, Yo Murphy Performance. At his state-of-the-art facility in Tampa Bay, he's shaping the next generation of high-performing athletes, from high school stars to college standouts and professional game changers. Let's dive into the world of elite sports training and the journey of an NFL star to renowned coach. Yo, so good to have you on the show today.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate
Dude,
it.
pumped. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm better now after that little walkout, that intro. I'm going to be good the rest of the day.
He's fired up on that one, man.
feeling excited.
No, we're fired up, man. Well, welcome to Full Field.
No, I appreciate
we got some questions for you today, so we're going to dig right in.
Let's do it, man. Man, so what I would love to know, being a past athlete myself, obviously not on the level of the guys you train. I played college lacrosse, but
Okay.
man, can you share with us, bro, like a pivotal moment that kind of shifted when you went from being an NFL athlete then to now training athletes, right? Because there's a little bit of a mindset shift now. But you also have the knowledge, having been there, of what it takes. So if you can, man, share with us like a pivotal moment that kind of shaped that career for you.
You know, the big reason that I'm doing it now is right before my second year at the Rams, I tore my quad tendon. And, I had another year on my contract, but, it was such a devastating injury to me because I was playing well, and I just couldn't even flex my quad,
Yeah.
They sent me offsite to a performance therapist who got me back. Everybody says I'm back to 100%. I never got back to where I was, but I was able to play, and compete.
Yeah.
So I realized how much good I could do in this field, for guys. So, I jumped in full force when I retired. I went out, shadowed the guy that had trained me, and really, because what happens to a lot of athletes that come into training is they may not have really finished their career. So it's like, instead of being 100% support, your guys can still be in competition with guys a little bit,
Yeah.
I've had that over the years because I like bringing athletes on, former athletes on to coach. And I see that a lot, but I was done. You know what I mean? I played, I had the opportunity to play in pro football 16 years in 3 different leagues. So when I finished, I just knew that my big thing was how I could help and support other athletes. It was easy for me to be that humble servant, and I get so much joy out of it,
Yeah.
so much fulfillment.
Staying involved in the game too, right? The world you kind of built up for yourself.
Yeah.
But man, tell me a little bit about, the training and stuff. Everything's always evolving.
Yeah.
Nutrition's always changing. Like, they thought first it was like be like higher carbs, low fat. Now it's like maybe you should be more high fat, low carbs. How about in like the training world, man? What are some of the cool things you've seen from when you were a player that now exist that you didn't have, that some of these guys are able to use? I mean, some of the machines you guys have
That's
up there
what I
are
was
freaking
gonna say.
next level, dude.
It's just the tech, Booger McFarland and I sat in a warehouse when I first started this, and I think this was 17 years ago. And our goal, we had 2 missions. One was to support the youth, like give them a direction and an understanding of how to get there. Not I want to get in the NFL, blah. It's like, okay, here are the steps you have to take to get to, your next level of grid kid, and then just keep moving in that way. And then 2 was, if an athlete only needs 8 reps, then how do we figure that out and only give them 8 reps?
Right.
You know what I mean? And let them a lot of that exertion, a lot of that, beating up your body and going through that, that phase, that resistance, whatever it is, should be on the field, And so that was our thing. And nowadays, you can get that. We do a ton of readiness with our force plates when the guys get off the field. We have all the GPS to understand load. So now that's changed. When I played, it was like man, run as fast as you can, lift as much
as much
you
as you can,
and just keep moving it. And so, feeling like crap, you didn't know you weren't supposed to. You know what I'm saying? And so now that's what we've gotten to is, our program for combine, probably 35% of it is recovery. Nutrition.
Huge.
And getting the guys back as close we can to 100% for the next day.
Yeah.
That's massive.
That's
I think in terms of, it's all good, like the batting average. I go to baseball analogy real quick because it's like you're only as good as your next home run or whatever. Like you have it, you got to shorten that gap of strikeouts that you have. And so we're looking at your facilities. I was walking around. You obviously have some like really cool hyperbaric chambers. You got the plunges back there. You got the red light saunas. Your 35% is a recovery. What is that window specifically in season that you feel like you're shortening the gap on players to like bounce back? Because you're talking about in the old days, right? You're going to the next game and you're operating 30-40% of what you were the game prior. What's that bounce back that you're looking at for as you prepare things on two sides, from a physical standpoint, but then also from a mental?
And I think the mental is, I think you could say the mental first, because I feel that, also in that we have these meditation goggles back there. We have all these things that the guys can tap into for breathing, breath work, like in the cold plunge, you get into that situation where you don't want to fight it. You know what I mean? You want to go in there and really take it on, like just go in there and just feel everything, but not be in a tense place while you're feeling it.
Right.
So in season, we have those guys, like we give them protocols, whether they follow them or not. And it's every day, like, before practice, we really focus on mobility activation. After practice, a cool down stretch, shoes off, walk in the field, coming backwards, walking, get a little stretch in, then hop in those plunges. I feel the best guy in the NFL, in Major League Baseball, is the most prepared. And part of that is, like you said, I got to shorten that gap. How fast can I get back to, even if it's 90%? You know what I'm saying? How fast can I get back to there? Because you can't afford, especially in the NFL, you don't have enough shots. But even in baseball, like, you can't go through too many slumps. And I think a lot of that is mental. When guys can't hit the ball, they start searching for things. And I think it's all about, you stay in that preparation. You understand, this is what I do, because this is what when I do this, I'm at my best. Even if it's not that time, I'm not going to have an opportunity to be at my best if I don't follow this. So we just try to give everybody, I was just out there with Julio Rodriguez, and next week we meet with him and his agent to give him his in-season plan from nutrition. Our nutritionist goes and looks at the next 22 stops they have and says, okay, this is going to be in the area of your hotel, so these are the places you're going to go eat.
That's detailed.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you guys know better than me, man. That nutrition supports everything,
Huge.
And my brain function of hitting a 98-mile-an-hour ball that's moving around has got to be on tilt to do that. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So we really focus on that in season. Our number one priority in season is nutrition. Then it goes into, now we're going to go into mobility, staying healthy. He doesn't need a lot of what I do in season. We'll go and do mobility and core work, make sure he feels connected. But I just want his mind working good.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's also like what Matt talks about all the time is like getting your body, as soon as you're done with that game or that workout, to shift back into parasympathetic so that it can start healing.
That's it.
Because, bro, you're so heightened. The guys out there running full sprints on those treadmills, then how do I get back to recovery mode as soon as possible, shorten that window. Also, man, I want to ask this because you're the guy for this, volume, right? And this is something I preach all the time. I used to train with too much volume all the time. I was like, why am I always sore? Why am I developing these little knick-knack injuries that just won't go away? I was just doing too much. So it's you can get more out of less. What would you say is the biggest shift in when you were training as an athlete to now as a trainer or as this high performance coach, the volume shift? I know the recovery's dramatically, technology has changed in the last 10 years, 5 years, but volume wise, what do you think? Is it less days, less reps? What's your approach there?
I would say reps, and then I would say, I'm not, like a real traditional linear progression guy, going from, GPP to tempo, ISO, strength, power. You know what I mean? We take on guys where they are. You know what I'm saying? If we got a guy like JC Latham's out there, and JC weighed in at 351 the other day, 6'6", like a monster.
It's a big dude.
Yeah, so it's like,
two of me.
I mean, he's about 8 of me, And so it's like, you got to say, okay, what are going to be our big nuggets? You know what I mean? What are we going to get here? Like, the guy can, he was doing 2 board presses for threes with 550 pounds. Jeez. So it's like, we're going to have to focus on endurance. You know what I mean? And just jump into that space, instead of saying, and that's how I feel we control the volume, is just get them what they need. Right off the bat, we do reconditioning, and we'll do a ton of ISO and tempo just to address some joint, tendon, ligament issues, you know what I'm saying? And then we get into whatever they need. The program is about them. So that cuts down on a lot of stuff when you're not just saying you have to go through these steps. You know what I mean? If they're strong in something, let's really spend time on what they're weak in.
Yeah, and it can't be a one-size-fits-all with someone like that versus, like a DB who's maybe not even 200 pounds or at 200 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, they have to have a different programming.
Exactly.
That just makes sense.
I got a question on that, because it's something that always, like, comes through that I look at, like, 16 years playing football, like, at a professional level. Number one, that's insane. Like, that's really insane.
It's way above average.
And so now you're working with all these professional athletes, right? So, like, you have a broad spectrum of, like, who has that it factor, right? Because there's an it factor associated with everything. So then somebody that has a longevity of 16 years, you had the it factor. Like, somehow you were able to likely play through a lot of injuries during that time frame. But then you also mitigate a lot because probably your level of intelligence and IQ. You can even name a few players, but, like, how do you address the it factor? Because there's one thing you said that, sometimes you, like, trigger the weaknesses, but then also when do you find that, like, man, they have a strength, let's double down on that. Do you kind of toy with that a little bit? And specifically how you trained 16 years, like, dude, I was powerful in this area, let's double down. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like the best athlete, talking about the Vikings, the Randy Mosses, the Chris Carters, when I was here, the Derek Brooks, I would say Sapp, but Sapp never worked out. Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, those guys only want to train their weaknesses. You know what I mean? They don't, like, it's like, you watch film as a football player and you don't study somebody for their strengths. You know what I mean? You just, like, let's find out what they do bad. Yeah. And so that's what I do. Once I get guys, I ask them what their strengths or weaknesses are. And then after all of our testing, I find out what they truly are and then tell them, and then we stay in that space. Okay. And the best guys, they take it on. You know what I mean? The guys that aren't, they really get pissed off. Like, I've had fast guys that all they want to do is run. You know what I mean? I'm like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's get stable, more efficient. Let's get you stronger here, or you know what I mean? And so when I was playing, I tell everybody I would have sacrificed 16 years for 7 years in the NFL because a lot of my years were trying to get there. However, when I got to decide I want to do this, I wouldn't sacrifice any of it because in those 16 years I had 9 different strength coaches, and so I found out what worked for me. And so now I'm very, like I said, I'm very humble in how I do it because I know there's a lot of different ways, and some guys did great with just being on machines. Some guys were better free weight. Some guys just need to run because they were so dense, like the muscle was so dense. Like, it was like, why are we going to keep trying to stack weight onto this? Right. You know what I'm saying? So it helped me understand what I needed. And so when I was playing in the CFL or in NFL Europe, I was my own strength coach. You know what I mean? Because I was like, man, I'd gone through all these guys. Here's what works for me. And that's why I was just telling those guys that you have to have a system and a process that you do every day, that works for you. Yeah. And that's what helped me is I just really became very system driven. And it just helped me kind of plug through things.
Yeah. That's awesome. If you look, and we'll have production team do a scan of the room before we leave.
There's some big names
but
here, bro.
There's some names that obviously, like, you've created a pedigree, man. It's like freaking, it's awesome. So, and that's why we're here. if you could highlight a few, maybe pick one or two that you're like, that guy was it, and then maybe highlight some of the things that you were like, maybe some of the weaknesses that they bought into early on that made them great.
Man, you're gonna get me cussed out.
The raw truth, baby.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You know, like I would say, here's a guy that I just trained at the very end of his career, Derek Jeter. So Jeter came in, he trained with my partner when we came together. So he trained with him for a bunch of years, and that's a guy that I trained with in my career. Met Jeter there, and he came when I opened my first facility. The guy came and joined us. Jeter was special because, and this is no knock on him, he's not the best athlete, but he made sure that he could do the best at his position. Like all the things he did were to support him playing shortstop and to get doubles and singles. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I respected him so much because that's all he cared about. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like, okay, let's really focus on 60-yard sprints. He's like, nah, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm being a smart ass, but that's what he felt. He was like, look, if it's not for me getting from second to third and covering that hole, or it's not me beating out, you know, a throw to first, I don't care about it. You know, and as far as preparation, and you know, we all know Jeter enjoyed his nightlife. You know what I'm saying? And enjoyed that, but he would work out Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. and only go out on Friday night and Saturday night. Just he'd work out that early just so he wouldn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? And he was just a pro. You know what I'm saying? And like younger guys that I had, Devonta Smith is like that. He's young in it, just been with me for 3 years now. And is locked in. You know what I mean? Everything from Smitty, Darius Leonard, they start at 5:30 in the morning. You know, and it's and you know, locked in from the time they start. They'll probably leave around 8 o'clock. With those guys, I challenge a lot. Like Jeter put his own challenges in front of him. You know, but those guys throughout the workout challenge them. You know, to hit a certain percentage or things that they did they couldn't do really well at. Force them into thinking about that and fighting to get that. You know. And it ends up bringing everything up, you know, because they're so competitive with themselves. It changes the whole energy of the workout. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes complete sense.
Yeah, and I mean those guys are students of the game too, right?
Yeah.
Like they put in a lot of work on the back end of like you said, Jeter was methodical with how he did stuff. And he was just the best. I love that. The best at his position, not trying to be like, well, what if I got to play this? He didn't have to. You don't have to play outfield. You don't have to play. You're not pitching, right? Like, so just be the best at what you do. I love that, man. So, do you train just collegiate and pro, or do you do high school? You train with high school players at all?
Yeah. So I probably have probably about 10 one-on-one clients that are high school. Cool. In that high school age. What
do you think is like the biggest, I guess, like difference or gap maybe between like a high school athlete and then the next level up, right? Like what are you changing? Is it maybe that volume kind of conversation again, or you know, what's like the
I think just like you said, volume, so the maturity of the person and athlete, then things change, the complexity of the work. You know, I know nowadays with Instagram, you know, everybody wants to do what they see, and you're not ready for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you know, when you were in first grade, you did first grade math, you know, in second grade. So it's like, you know, don't rush it. I just talked to a kid last night. I was with he and his dad, and we were over there doing recovery. And he was worried because he was training with me. He wasn't training with the school yet. And he's like, am I going to be weaker than the guys when I get back? And, you know, I said, I have no idea. I don't know these guys. However, you're going to have the correct development and growth that you need in the end. You know, I think these guys, but because of social media, they have access to everybody around the country. You know, he's telling me a 15-year-old kid got an offer to USC and signed, and I'm like, but he can't go until he's a senior. So who cares? You know? But I understand that everything is rushed, and so they want to rush the training and just lift weights. And so what we focus on is just, and I don't want to say it's anything special, I think a lot of people do, is just specific strength for his age. So that group, you know what I mean? Like,
foundational.
You know what I mean? He's not mature. So as an athlete, or even in fitness, so we just wherever he is, and then we'll keep, elevating up.
Yeah. One thing I think is big about that too, because we saw Roman Wilson back there and was just talking to him for a minute, but like watching the Michigan Wolverines play this year, is that like from a freshman to a senior, his confidence grew. And he performed. He's amazing slot receiver. Like he's unreal. I think he's going to be phenomenal in the NFL. Just the way he approaches the game. He's got really a team attitude, but that like confidence factor that he played the long game. Like it's all that long game of like buying into the process. We talk about like the buy-in of like you got to buy into the process. If you create the long game, you're playing 16 years of football. If you try to shorten that gap, you might be playing 1 or 2 at the end of the day. You're speeding the process up. I'll shoot that back to you. Do you think that really is it? You have more longevity if you play this long game, buy into the process of what it takes, versus trying to inundate yourself with like what somebody else is doing. If I could just focus on what Yo Murphy's telling me, I'm going to have a lot more longevity in my career.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like you said, people get so caught up in where somebody else is, or, I should be there or something like, instead of just like saying, like you said, is like, okay, just this is where I'm at now. I mean, if Roman would have come out when he had the opportunity, even last year, he wouldn't be in the situation he is now. You know what I'm saying?
Go blue, baby.
I wonder why you brought Roman up. But because he waited, and NFL teams look at guys who are on championship teams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
especially seniors, leaders. Yeah. So, if you're a part of that, they know they have a guy that is – it's not like Michigan had, not on the field, but all the other things. They had a ton of distractions. They had a ton of things that hit them, and they just kept pushing through it. And you get a guy that's part of that, that raises your stock,
Yeah, 100%. Set a standard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have like a specific, this is a little bit of a shift here, but I was just curious, do you have like a specific assessment protocol you use, like to assess movements? So I was just thinking about like, we work with more like ex-athletes and what we call like alpha dads.
It ain't
right?
funny, bro.
Those are the guys who need our help. But
why are you looking at him?
Yeah, why are you looking at me?
I'm right there with you, bro.
I don't consider myself an ex-athlete. I'm an athlete.
You are an athlete. You should see this guy on the course at that, man. But, a lot of times you got to take what they're doing and just totally break it down, reverse engineer it to the fundamentals of like, dude, you don't even know how to like properly step with your foot. Your foot does not, your arch isn't working, or like your ankle doesn't flex. So now you're going to try to do like sprints. Bad idea. How much of that, like, I guess, like, what system do you use for the assessment of that, and how much do you break it down for these guys? I mean, you go super fine-tuned, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so we do the very last assessment as coaches. So we do, with my physical therapist, she does a movement and strength assessment.
Oh, cool.
And then we have another guy that comes in. His name's Jordan Shallow. It's called Muscle Doc on Instagram. He comes in. He's got a company called Prescript, one of the best guys for movement quality assessment. So he'll come in and he does his assessment. Then I have a doctor, Dr. O'Neill, who's an orthopedic doctor. He's actually a team doctor for the Blue Jays years ago, and he does a biomechanics and then an orthopedic assessment. And then we'll do the performance assessment is we do a speed gate, 5, 10, and 20, and then we do force plates, and we do Nord board. So we do all of those things together. So for them, it's not that board. We have another board, and we'll put every player on it, go through all their strengths and weaknesses, asymmetries, all that, and then build the program. So every player has their own individual program.
Cool.
And then we'll shift again right after they get back. So players leave for Senior Bowl Sunday, East-West today. When they get back from that, we shift for our final phase right before Combine.
Yeah, so it's like a team effort. You got a lot of specialists in areas. That's fantastic.
And it's so hard, I think, if I try to do everything, I'm not going to be at the same quality everywhere. So I really focus on, honestly, once we get all that information, focus on pushing them, supporting them, pulling them, whatever they need, to finish it off.
Yeah, I mean, that's like goes right back to Derek Jeter. It's the power of like specializing, right?
Yep.
So if he was trying to play all these different positions, be a pitcher, be a hitter, all this stuff, he'd probably be decent at all of them, pretty good at all of them. But would he be great at all of them? That's difficult, right? So yeah, it's hard to be orthopedic surgeon, physical trainer, personal trainer, physical therapist. It's hard to be all that. It's almost impossible if you ask me. But that's cool, man. I love that.
Oh, for sure.
Name of the show is Full Fueled. I always ask this question from people, and I love the responses we get because it's always super cool and personal to them. When we talk about living full fueled or living a life that's full fueled, we have 6 pillars that we like to optimize in our philosophy. It's fuel, movement, sleep, mind, work, and spirit. And so when you have those 6 things working for you, you're going to be living fully fueled.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, man, what does that look like for you in your personal? What does that look like for you in your coaching? What does it mean to be full fueled to Yo Murphy?
Put a lot of pressure on me. You said everybody's cool. Now I got to come with this crazy answer.
No, man, it's your thing, bro.
I'm just messing. Personally, everything's about my family. You know what I'm saying? Like as long as they're good, I'm good. I mean, that's just it's real easy for me. I got a son that's 4, a daughter that's 7. So, my wife, my family, being full fueled, and I feel like what you guys are saying too, that mind and spirit. That's why that's so strong, with my mind and spirit. And work is about, I guess, everybody else too. I push really hard to get the JC Lathams, the Roman Wilsons, Terrion Arnolds, the, DJ Browns, all the guys that we get in here. But then I commit to them that they're going to get everything they need. So as long as these guys go and perform to the utmost of their ability, I'll have a guy that'll come in and say he's going to run a 4.3, but he can't fly a plane and run a 4.3. So, your numbers are 4.6, let's get a 4.6, and so as long as we can hit those numbers, realistic numbers, my business is full. And when we do what we're supposed to do for these guys, we're in a good place profit-wise, so
awesome.
I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be answered, but
it's just
that's
your personal response, bro. I thought it was fantastic. I love the family answer because we're the same, man. We're family guys, and I got kids, he's got kids, so
if you have kids and it's not about them, and it's I can't get down with you, you know what I mean? Because it's so special every time they do one thing different. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
that's great.
The world has changed,
It's amazing, man. I love that component of really, I mean, you set a standard. Obviously, you set a standard of this, like, excellence piece. But if you don't set that standard at home and you don't set that, like, I was talking with a guy the other day, and not to go off topic of stealing your full field question, but it was one of those things where, like, you set the standard with athletes, right? And you have all these athletes performing at a really high level, but then you lose the focus of what that standard was, like at home. You lost the standard.
Man.
You lost the standard. Like, the standard was actually set, and it's actually one of the things that I think is, like, most important to me. We're not doing all this production. We're not pushing all this out to set a standard for somebody else. I'm looking at this internally because I got 3 girls at home, and when they choose somebody, I want to make sure that standard's set super high for them.
That's it.
No,
for sure.
I set that bar. I set that bar early on. So it's one of those things where it's like that's the main focus of that full field lifestyle of living beyond limits, is that, like, I want to make sure I'm that model.
No, you're
so,
right.
And I know you're that model, bro.
You got to.
Dude.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today, brother.
I appreciate it.
We had Murphy. We got him locked down. He's actually going through combine training right now, so they got a ton of guys and high-level guys from all over the nation. You got Michigan, Alabama. You probably can name like Kansas State, Clemson. That you're training right now. That are just you're getting them ready for the combine. The combine's when?
February 27th is the first day.
Oh, man.
First day. Yeah. So you're programming them all for February 27th, getting them geared up. Is there when is your end date with them?
So that depends. Like, some of them will come back after the combine. So they all perform. The first day they're running is, I think, February 29th. So, I think it's D-line first, and then it goes through. And then they'll have their pro day. So some will come back with us and just stay in shape, tuned up. Some will go back to their schools, just start getting ready there. So
gotcha.
Everybody should be out of here probably the middle of March.
Yeah. Now you attend the combine, right? You go up there, you're evaluating too at the same time.
I just go there. So what we'll do is the combine process, you go there and you have 3 days of meetings with scouts, so like, or teams or whatever. You have a lanyard they'll put on your chest, and on the back of the lanyard it'll say room 308 at 8 o'clock, room 310. So you walk in those rooms, and it could be Jerry Jones, it could be Bill Belichick's on a team right now, but it could be Troy, Bowles or whatever, and then they'll interview you, right? And you have all that stuff, medical. And
so the coaches like Andy Reid will be there. Campbell will be there. All the guys. Okay, cool.
So that's a nerve-wracking thing. Just imagine if you got to go to Indianapolis. You go there for 3 days. You get prodded, pulled. You get. They probably have about 40 MRI machines in the building, and they just throw guys in them. You have to meet with these guys. They grab you at any time, and then so what we do. I set up a suite over there. Everybody, all the big places will be there. You set up a suite. I'll take the players, and the Noble has this really cool lounge where that you can run and lift in there. So I'll take the players, and we'll do just a bunch of starts, push-outs, all that stuff, just to keep their central nervous system firing. They'll come back. My therapist is there, so they'll do work on them. Our PT, we'll get them food. I take my nutritionist there. Because I just give them shit food. Like, they'll give you a grilled option, but then there'll be like, chicken wings and pasta, and they just have it. It's crazy. And then, so we'll just keep them sharp all the way up until then. Yeah. And then give them something that, feels kind of like home, where they can be comfortable at. And then they'll run the third day, and then they're going to try to lift them after, but a lot of my guys just don't bench there. Okay. So then they'll take off, and then I'll stay there until our last guy goes on Sunday. And then I fly back Monday.
Oh, cool. Yeah. One question that popped up that I was thinking about. So, you're pretty detailed as far as, all the programming piece. But we were talking about, the big psychological and mental component to it. And you were saying that, they're grabbing you and pulling you in a room and then questioning you. So they're waiting for kind of, to catch you. And then they want to get your characteristic. They want to get your... Is that something you're doing here too, where you're kind of pulling them in and you're questioning so that you can trigger them?
So I don't do it, but there's a guy named Mark Dominic. He used to be the general manager for the Bucks years ago. Okay. So he'll come in, and I pay him to come, and he'll do interviews with the guys. And he's been in personnel for 27 years, knows all the teams. Yeah. So he'll find out what teams are thinking. Okay. And he'll basically take them through a mock. We have one guy he's a good guy, but his school, whatever happened there, they're kind of slamming him, you know? So what Mark did was basically attacked him on the things the school said. And then he lashed out back, and Mark's like, you just lost. You know what I mean? And they'll take you in and say,
they got one of those Planet Fitness hordes.
And what they do is, if they ask you the question, they know the answer, right? Yeah. So you can't lie. We had a guy a few years ago, personnel guy told me that there's a receiver that came out of Oklahoma State, and he said they really liked him. He's high on their board, but they knew that he was an alcoholic. They said that they had done – so these teams will hire investigators, and some teams will spend from $75,000 to $200,000 investigating players. Yeah. And he said they met with a guy that was a bartender at a bar, and a guy would always come in, and he'd get vodka and something in a coffee cup, just whatever. But he said they went and they asked the guy, hey, man, you drink a lot? And he's like, no, not really. I'll party after a game, that's it. He's like, oh, okay, because we heard that, you drink every night. And he's like, no. And they started laughing, and the coach or the scout said the coach was laughing with him. He let him get all the way to the door, and then he said, hey, man, Henry says hi. And it was the bartender. And he said he just froze, and the scout guy I played with, Francis St. Paul, said, if they ask you the question, he told me to tell the guys, if they ask you the question, they know the answer. Yeah. So just dive on your sword.
Just repent,
bro.
Yeah. They're making a big investment in you. They're making a large financial investment. They want to know.
Yeah. That's it. And that's all they want. Now they beat guys up over weed. Half these guys smoke anyway. The scouts that are asking them smoke. So it's more about just understanding your character. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You're chances are when you did this, you were 19 years old. Everybody, as a male, we're not even developed then, so we did some things that we don't know why we did it. You know what I mean? So it's just about being honest and just standing on it. You know? And Derek Brooks comes in, and he he worked with two of our guys, Edrin Cooper and Shane Lee, and that's what he did to him. You know, he asked him something crazy about a girl, and then went right into asking him football stuff.
Yeah.
And then Edge was shook. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah,
the thing is
couldn't
they'll
figure it out.
Rattle you a little bit.
and then ask you different questions,
Wow.
you know? So it's a tough time for him, but I always tell him that, you know, that old saying, you know, pressure is a privilege. Like, you're there because of who you are. So embrace that, you know?
Yeah, what I appreciate about you is, like, I even said it before he came on the show. I was like, Yo has this, like, swagger about him. I'm telling you, man. But that's what they're looking for is, like, to keep – dude, when you're on the field, if you're a safety, you're a linebacker, like, you're going to get rattled.
Yeah.
How you coming back from it? Like,
That's
how
it.
you going to come
That's
back the
it.
next
Yeah.
down? That's what we're worried about.
No,
edge,
for sure.
Yeah.
A guy that says he's never had the shit knocked out of him or, you know, never missed a tackle, like, you don't want that guy. You know what I'm saying? Because you want a guy that's definitely got it knocked out of him a lot of times, but he's back in it. You know what I mean? Because if you play hard, it's like in basketball. If you're a center and you haven't been dunked on, you're not doing your job. You know what I'm saying? So,
you're not getting in there.
That's it.
So cool, man. So that's what we got. Yo, thank you so much, bro, man. It's been such a great episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on Full Field. They'll be on limits, baby.